on Film again. Today, I'll be talking about The Quiet Man, one of my original dad's favorite movies. Finally got around to watching it. I probably did watch it when I was younger, but I can only remember bits and pieces if I did see the whole thing. But yeah, it came out in 1952. It's a comedy, drama, romance. And it's directed by John Ford. Stars John Wayne as Sean Thornton, and it has Maureen Sullivan as Mary Kate Donaher, and her brother's played by Victor McLaughlin, and there's a priest played by Ward Bond. Those are the big name actors that I recognize. There's a whole bunch of other ones. Yeah, so the movie starts out, it's very colorful, very green. This is probably one of the earlier movies. I noticed in the early credits there's a person specifically in charge of the Technicolor. So I do know that, yeah, 1952, there were definitely still lots of black and white movies, probably due to budgetary reasons, still being made at that point in time. I know like Wizard of Oz came out like 1939 or something, and that was like a rarity at the time to be in color. Like only like the biggest movies were in color, and that was one of them. So by this time, it was over a decade later, it was more commonplace. But at the same time, not every movie that came out, I'm pretty positive, wasn't color at that point in time. It was like a novelty, and it shows on the screen. It's like, you know, whenever they first start doing something, people really put their best foot forward, behind the scenes people, and such a beautiful location in Ireland to be testing out your first color experiments, which is what this is in a way. But yeah, it's called The Quiet Man. I never really thought about why it's called The Quiet Man until this viewing, but because he's got a secret. He's not necessarily a quiet guy at all, so I always kind of thought it was funny in the past, though. He's pretty much loudmouth and outspoken, and says what's on his mind at any point in time. But the whole quiet aspect, which I don't know if it could have made probably a better title, but because he's got some secret which doesn't even necessarily turn out to be all that important, but it's enough to warrant the title for what it was. It's kind of a long movie. That's what I remember in the past. I didn't really watch it again because I knew it wasn't a movie. Even if I did see it fully, it's not a movie that I would like kind of replay often, if at all, because I remember that it kind of drags. But now that I'm older and I understand like what's going on a little more, and I can see the humor better, it makes it more interesting to watch, and the movie's rewarding enough that even during the like longer stretches, there's something interesting enough on the other side to keep it going, and it really does pay off at the conclusion. So there's a lot of wrangling and arguing. They get married pretty quickly. He has to demand the other brother or ask for it, and then once they do, it's like the thing I found interesting. It's like most movies that would end there because that's the happily ever after. And this movie's humorous because it shows the happily ever after, and it's not happily ever after, but it's not like terrible ever after. It's just like kind of the same ever after, as long as they don't like push it too far, which almost happens, it seems like, a couple times, like when he throws her on the bed and the bedposts break, and then he goes and sleeps in the sleeping bag in the living room while she cries in the bed. But at the same time, it's just like so outrageous. It's like on one hand it's like bad news, on the other hand you kind of just can't help kind of laughing at the situation. And they wake up and, you know, their feelings are better in the morning anyway. So that's what we are as humans. You know, this was during wartime, so it's like nowadays, you know, it's such a big deal, but it's like you're facing nuclear bombs and stuff. This is like kind of petty, childish, non-issue type things. So this movie kind of uses that as leverage for comedy. So it's pretty entertaining with the whole backdrop of Ireland and all the townspeople being very voyeuristic and fascinated with these characters and what's going on in their lives, basically, as I guess as we are viewing them. They're going to hit the brother guy keeps trying to pick a fight with him, and he's got this like rule basically where he refuses to get in a physical altercation. And then you kind of find out like it takes a long time, but eventually there's like a flashback. He gets knocked out, and then like it's kind of like a dream sequence, either that or we're just kind of thrown into the memory as well when he knocked someone out in the ring in America, and the guy never got up again. So he was a ferocious boxer who was getting paid for it, and I guess that kind of explains that's the reason why he's in Innisfree. I didn't even mention that now, but it's the town he goes to, Innisfree, Ireland. And I guess the reason he got up and left was because of that incident, maybe. But I mean, that's why the movie's called The Quiet Man, because he won't talk about that. But when he finally does, he reveals to the priest guy that he refuses to fight anyone because he never wants to hurt anyone or anyone's family like that ever again. The only way he'll fight physically is if he intends, if it's like life or death. Thankfully, it never rises to that level, and he kind of overcomes that, and it leads to like a kind of goofy climax where he decides he can fight again, but he's not putting his like killer instinct behind it, which apparently in America was like what they would keep drawing out of him. So going back to his native homeland kind of, I guess, calms him down a bit. Maybe having the wifey around. Maureen O'Sullivan, her character Mary-Kate Donaher, she's actually kind of my favorite thing in the entire movie. And I remember watching it when I was younger. You know, I was kind of a judgmental kid. I grew up kind of fast. I used to compare her with another Marine. There was two big ones back then. Maureen O'Sullivan, Maureen O'Hara. Maureen O'Sullivan was from the early Tarzan movies. You know, Johnny Weissmuller, the famous. He was an Olympic gold medalist turned actor, and he had the most famous Tarzan yell of all time. Like when he does it, it's just like epic. They've never captured it like that. But that was Maureen O'Sullivan, and I always kind of leaned towards her, and then I was like, probably because like this in The Quiet Man when I was a kid, I didn't get it. I was like, this lady's like hard to get along with. But she's really quite beautiful as well. So I don't remember what Maureen O'Sullivan is like in color. I'm pretty sure I've seen some of hers too. But Maureen O'Hara in this movie, she's like born for the Technicolor. So and then her fiery but not too fiery temper makes for every day is something never boring, basically. Even though sometimes you just want to get her to like sit down and not talk for an hour, but she refuses it. It seems like she always wants something and wants her new husband to get it for her, make it happen. And if he doesn't, then she is like willing to turn the snow globe upside down and throw everything out the window to get her way. They go on a date scene, and like there's all these rules, like where the carriage driver is like in charge, and it's like they're not supposed to be like hug or whatever until like a month later. You know, it's like really lay it out. And she's like kind of abides by them, like ingrained in her head. And he's so like Americanized that he just wants to go straight third base kind of deal. I also like the movie. It's you know, back then when you grow older now and you watch the stuff, you can kind of see the innuendos that flew over your head. There's some that are pretty racy in this film. Just like kind of didn't leave a whole lot of imagination on it, let me put it that way. So I like seeing these older movies. It shows that they're like, how else did we get here? You know, how were we born if these people didn't have these feelings as well? You know, which generally were hidden back then. The Hays Code, censorship type stuff. So, I mean, obviously now it's like it goes too far all the time, but it's refreshing seeing it withheld until just certain moments where it's expected. The other thing that got me my interest peaked after watching this this time was John Ford. I know John Wayne, like I mean, I know his range and he can go to these like comedic levels, but forgot that John Ford had that in him, like to make kind of an all-out comedy. Because I know he's known for like the more like grandeur, epic westerns with the giant horizon lines throughout the movie. So it's like I wonder what other movies he has that is similar to this. I know this is one of the more famous, but definitely like to check more of his oeuvre. Okay, so that's my take on The Quiet Man, my reactions, my perspective, my thoughts. Came out in 1952, budget's $1,750,000. You know, there's inflation since then, so that was a big deal back then. I wouldn't know exactly what it is now. Made $3,800,000. Movie's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Stars John Wayne, directed by John Ford. Marino Sullivan's in it. Victor McLaughlin, Ward Bond, and a bunch of other actors. So yeah, I recommend it. Check it out, especially if you want to see greenery at its best. So if you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, like the video. Until my next perspective, it's Nicholas on Film. Over now.